It's been 10 years, but I still remember that night like it happened yesterday. I was 18, just about to start college, full of hope for the future, until my life completely flipped upside down. All because of my family, especially my sister, Claire. Claire was the golden child, and she always had this way of making me feel like I didn't belong. What finally got me kicked out was the moment I figured out how to pay for college tuition without their help. That alone was enough for them to brand me a traitor. Claire's 4 years older than me, and honestly, ever since we were kids, it was obvious she was the favorite. Not just in a casual way either. My parents were obsessed with her. If she got an A, they'd practically throw her a parade. If I got an A, all I'd hear was, "Cool. What's for dinner?" That kind of thing eats away at you after a while. By the time Claire got into a top business school, my parents were treating her like she walked on water. They covered everything. Tuition, her apartment, designer clothes. Me. I just kept my head down. I knew I wouldn't get the same treatment, so I figured I'd find my own way. When I got accepted into a reputable university in the UK to study history, I thought, maybe, just maybe, they'd finally be proud of me. Maybe they'd lend a little support. But no. They straight up told me they couldn't afford to help with tuition. And look, I get it, college is expensive. But they wouldn't even co-sign a loan. I wasn't asking them to hand me a blank check. I just didn't want to drown in debt before my life even started. Their excuse? We already paid for Claire's college. We have to think about our future now. Apparently, they were putting all their money into starting some kind of small business. But the double standard stung. They had no problem dropping tens of thousands on Claire, but when it came to me, suddenly they needed to be financially responsible. I was stuck. I didn't want to lose the opportunity to study in the UK, but it felt like my own family was putting up roadblocks just to watch me fall. So I did something I really didn't want to do. I reached out to my Aunt Denise. Denise is my dad's older sister, a neurosurgeon, super successful, but also incredibly grounded and kind. My parents always had this weird tension with her. They'd act polite at family events, but I could tell they resented her, especially my dad. He hated being overshadowed by his big sister. I didn't want to drag her into the mess, but I was desperate. I asked if she'd help with tuition. She didn't even blink. "Of course I'll help," she said. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" She was the first person in my family who made me feel like I actually mattered. Still, I was terrified my dad would find out. If he knew I'd gone behind his back to ask his sister for money, he'd explode. I begged Aunt Denise to keep it between us. She agreed. For a while, things were okay. Tuition was sorted. I was prepping for my move to the UK. I thought I was finally in the clear. Then Claire found out. To this day, I don't know how she discovered I'd asked Aunt Denise for help, but she did. And being Claire, she couldn't just let it go. She had to turn it into a full-blown scandal. I remember the night it all came crashing down. I got home after hanging out with friends and instantly knew something was wrong. My stuff, clothes, books, bedding, was all packed in boxes. My parents were sitting in the living room. And there was Claire standing nearby with that smug, triumphant look on her face, like she had just conquered a small country. My dad didn't waste time. He threw a stack of papers at me and barked, "Explain this." I picked them up, confused, and then my stomach dropped. Claire had fabricated fake emails between me and Aunt Denise. She'd hacked into my laptop, taken real emails, and doctored them. She made it look like I was leaking confidential information about my parents' business plans to Aunt Denise in exchange for her paying my tuition. It was completely fake. But it didn't matter. My parents didn't believe me. They didn't even try to listen. They stood there saying, "We trusted you and you stabbed us in the back." Nothing I said could change their minds. Claire had always been their perfect daughter. If she said I did something, then I did it. No questions asked. They told me to leave. Right then and there. I begged them to reconsider. I didn't want to burden Aunt Denise any more than I already had, but they didn't care. "You're a traitor," they said. "We want nothing to do with you." So I left. Just like that, I was out. No money, just the clothes on my back and a few boxes. I showed up on Aunt Denise's doorstep, still trying to process what had happened. One minute, I had a family. Imperfect, sure, but still a family. The next, I was being thrown out like garbage. Aunt Denise didn't hesitate. She opened her door and welcomed me in like I had always belonged there. "My house is your house," she said. No questions, no judgment, just love. That kind of kindness hit me hard. I hadn't felt warmth like that in years. Maybe ever. Moving in with her was strange at first. Waking up in a guest room, not hearing my parents yelling from the kitchen. But little by little, it started to feel more like home than the house I grew up in ever did. We got closer. She told me things I'd never known, like how my dad had resented her for decades, long before I was born. He hated that she was more successful, more respected, more everything. And he never got over it. That bitterness spilled over into how he treated me. Aunt Denise had figured all this out years ago but stayed silent to protect me. Now that I was with her, she filled in the blanks. Explained why my parents always treated me like I didn't matter. Why they bent over backward for Claire and barely looked my way. It wasn't about me. It had never been about me. It was about him. Still, even living with Aunt Denise, I couldn't fully relax. I kept waiting. Waiting for a call, a text, a message from my parents. Something. Anything. But nothing came. Not a single word. At first, I was furious. How could they just toss me aside like I was nothing? But over time, the anger faded into numbness. My brain just shut down the feelings. I had to survive. Aunt Denise never pushed. She gave me space, helped me get ready for school, made sure I had everything I needed before I flew to the UK. If it weren't for her, I don't think I would have made it through that time. But the silence from my parents haunted me. Until one day, about a month later, I got a text from Claire. Just one line. "Hope you're doing okay. By the way, don't leave your laptop lying around." No apology. No acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just one final smug jab to remind me she'd won. That one message told me everything I needed to know. I stared at the screen, my blood boiling. She was taunting me. Plain and simple. I didn't respond. What was the point? Claire wasn't the type to feel guilt, not ever. In her mind, she had won. Some weird family competition that only she was playing. And now she could sit back and gloat. I thought about sending something snarky back, something to shut her down. But I knew it wouldn't change anything. She'd just feed off it. That's how she operated. So instead, I blocked her number and tried to move on. But it wasn't easy. Every time I picked up my phone, some small, stubborn part of me was still hoping. Hoping I'd see a message from my mom saying she regretted everything. Or even just a passive-aggressive email from my dad, pretending like none of it had happened. But no. Nothing. Radio silence. In the months that followed, Aunt Denise and I settled into a rhythm. A solid, comforting routine. She became more than just my aunt. She became my confidant. My friend, really the only family I had left. And the longer I stayed with her, the more I started to see just how truly messed up my parents were. They had spent so much time pouring all their energy into Claire, molding her into their perfect daughter, that they ignored everything else. And when Claire inevitably messed up, and I knew she would, it would be too late for them to fix it. Around the time I was getting ready to leave for school, I got another message. This time from my dad. It was short, direct. "Good luck in the UK." That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just good luck. It felt like a slap in the face. After everything they had put me through, that was all he had to say. I didn't even know how to respond, so I didn't. I deleted the message and forced myself not to think about it. The day I left for the UK, Aunt Denise drove me to the airport. As we hugged goodbye, she told me how proud she was of me, that she knew I'd go on to do great things. It was the first time in my life anyone in my family had ever said something like that to me. And it hit me hard. I boarded that plane feeling like I was leaving behind more than just home. I was leaving behind the version of me that had bent over backward trying to earn my parents' approval. The version of me that kept hoping they'd come around. From that moment on, I decided I didn't need them anymore. I had Denise. I had a future. I had me. If they ever wanted to reach out, fine. But I wasn't going to waste any more energy on people who had made it clear they didn't care about me. I was done. Life in the UK turned out even better than I imagined. I settled into college, made friends, and started focusing on my studies and my future. For the first time in years, I wasn't constantly weighed down by my family's drama. I won't lie and say I forgot about them, you never really do, but they weren't on my mind like before. I was finally free to live my own life without feeling like I was stuck in their toxic shadow. But of course, just when things were finally smoothing out, something had to come along and stir it all up again. By the time I finished college and returned to my city, things were looking up. I'd landed a great job, with good pay and real career potential. Then came the call from my mom. Yeah, my mom. The same woman who hadn't spoken a word to me since the day they kicked me out. It came completely out of the blue. I was sitting in my room going over notes for a work presentation when my phone buzzed. I looked down and saw her name. For a second, I honestly thought I was hallucinating. I just stared at it, my heart pounding, my mind racing. Should I answer? Ignore it? After everything, what could she possibly want now? I let it ring a few more times. Then, against my better judgment, I answered. Hello, I said, trying to sound calm even though my heart was in my throat. There was a pause on the other end, like she didn't even know how to start. Finally, she said, Hi, it's your mother. No kidding. I didn't say that out loud, though. I just stayed silent, waiting for her to get to the point. After almost 2 years of complete silence, I wasn't about to help her out with words. She hesitated again, then out of nowhere said, We need to talk. I scoffed. Now she wanted to talk. Typical. Still, a part of me deep down was curious. What could possibly be so important that she was calling me now? About what? I asked, keeping my tone flat, neutral. She fumbled, searching for the right words. Your father and I, we want to see you. Of course. I could already see where this was going. They didn't want to see me because they missed me or regretted anything. They wanted something. And I had a pretty good guess what. Why? I asked bluntly. She didn't answer right away, which told me everything I needed to know. When she finally spoke, her voice dropped into that fake motherly softness I remembered too well. Your dad and we've been going through a hard time. Things haven't been easy since the pandemic. And there it was. The real reason for the call. Money problems. I hadn't heard much about their business since I left, but I knew it wasn't going well. Aunt Denise had mentioned in passing how their shop wasn't thriving the way they'd hoped, and with the pandemic, it made sense. But that didn't mean I was about to swoop in and save them. Not after everything. Okay, I said flatly. No emotion. I wasn't about to make this easy for her. Your sister Claire, she's been managing things for us, she started. And that's when I cut her off. Let me guess, I said. Claire screwed it all up. There was a long pause. That was all the confirmation I needed. Of course she had. Claire had always been more focused on appearances than substance. She could play the part, sure, but actually running something? Please. They had put all their faith in her, and now it was blowing up in their faces. My mom let out a shaky breath. Things haven't been going as planned, she admitted quietly. And we need help. I laughed. I couldn't help it. After all that, this was what brought them back. The audacity, I muttered under my breath. What's so funny? She asked, confused, like she truly didn't understand why I wasn't leaping to their rescue. You're serious, I said, my voice rising. You actually think I'm going to help you? We're your parents, she said, her voice trembling. We made mistakes, but we need you. I shook my head. She couldn't see it, but I needed her to know I wasn't the same person she had thrown away. You didn't just make mistakes, Mom, I said. You kicked me out. You believed Claire's lies over your own son. You haven't spoken to me in years, and now you need something. And I'm supposed to drop everything and come running." She went quiet. Probably because deep down she knew I was right. Back when I lived under their roof, I would have stayed quiet, tried to keep the peace, bent myself out of shape to keep the family from imploding. But I had changed. I wasn't that person anymore. Finally, she spoke again. But her tone had shifted. No more soft maternal warmth. She sounded sharp, irritated. "We're still your family," she said. Like that was supposed to mean something. "You owe us at least that much." And that was the final straw. I didn't owe them anything. If anything, they were the ones who owed me. An apology for starters. But I wasn't holding my breath. "I don't owe you a damn thing," I said, my voice cold and steady. "If you need help, go ask Claire. She's your golden child, remember." Then, without waiting for a reply, I hung up. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking, but I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: relief. I had finally said what needed to be said. They could figure out their own mess. I wasn't going to be part of it. That night, I called Aunt Denise and told her everything. She wasn't surprised. "They've been relying on Claire for years," she said. It was only a matter of time before it caught up to them. We talked for a while, and by the end of the call, I felt even more confident I had made the right decision. My parents had made their choice a long time ago. They chose Claire. Now they were paying for it. And as harsh as it sounds, that wasn't my problem anymore. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their acceptance. I had my own life now, and I wasn't going to let them drag me back into their toxic mess. "I wanted to talk," she said, tilting her head slightly. "Can I come in?" I crossed my arms, not moving from the doorway. "About what?" I asked, keeping my voice as neutral as possible. Her smile faltered for just a split second, but she recovered quickly. "Come on, can we just talk inside? It's important." I should have said no. I should have told her to leave right then and there. But my curiosity got the better of me. I stepped aside and let her in. I didn't offer her a seat. Didn't ask if she wanted a drink. Didn't bother pretending she was welcome in my space. Not after everything she'd done. She walked in slowly, glancing around like she was trying to soak it all in. "Nice apartment," she said, like she was making small talk. I didn't respond. No pleasantries, no pretending. "Okay, Claire," I said, cutting through the silence. "What do you want?" She sighed, dramatically of course, like she was already exhausted from whatever game she was about to play. "Mom told me about your conversation," she said, folding her arms. "She's pretty upset, you know." I raised an eyebrow. "Upset?" "She kicked me out of the house." "Claire, what exactly does she have to be upset about?" Claire rolled her eyes, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Look, I'm not here to rehash all that," she said. "We both know you've always been difficult." I almost laughed. "Difficult? Difficult?" I repeated. "Are you serious right now? You fabricated an email to get me kicked out of the house. That's difficult to you." She waved a hand, dismissive, like I was talking about some tiny misunderstanding from grade school. "That's ancient history," she said. "I came here because I want to make things right." I blinked, unsure if I'd heard her correctly. "You want to make things right?" I asked, every word soaked in disbelief. "Yeah," she said, nodding like this was the most reasonable thing in the world. "I know things got complicated with the family and maybe I overreacted back then, but I think it's time to put all that behind us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You think you overreacted?" I said, trying to keep my voice level. "Claire, you destroyed my relationship with our parents. You lied about me. You manipulated them. And now you're standing here like none of that matters anymore." Her smile slipped. I could see frustration building behind her eyes. "I didn't come here to argue, okay?" she said, her voice tighter now. "I came because I need your help." And there it was. The real reason she was standing in my apartment. Of course, Claire wasn't here to apologize or make amends. She needed something. My jaw clenched as I stared at her, waiting. "I've been trying to keep the business going," she said, the fake sweetness finally gone. "But it's been really hard. The pandemic hit us pretty badly. I'm doing everything I can, but it's not enough. Mom and Dad won't admit it, but we're on the verge of losing everything." I crossed my arms again, not feeling even a flicker of sympathy. "So let me guess. You want me to help bail you out?" Claire shifted, clearly uncomfortable. "I'm not asking for a handout," she said quickly, almost defensive. "I just thought we could, I don't know, figure something out together. You're doing well for yourself, right? I figured you'd want to help the family." Unbelievable. She was trying to guilt-trip me. After everything she had done, she thought I'd feel some kind of loyalty. "You figured wrong," I said flatly. Claire blinked, stunned. "Wait, what do you mean?" "I mean," I said, voice steady, "I'm not helping you." She stared at me, not understanding. "Not after everything you did," I continued. "You ruined my life, Claire. You turned my own parents against me. And now that you're in trouble, you think I'm just going to forget all of that and jump in to save you?" No. She looked completely dumbfounded. For the first time in her life, Claire didn't seem to know what to say. "But we're family," she said weakly, her confidence cracking. I shook my head. "We stopped being family the day you made it your mission to destroy me." Claire's face went pale. She wasn't used to hearing no, not from anyone, and she was struggling to process it. After a long, painfully awkward silence, she stood up. "Fine," she said coldly. "If that's how you want it, that's how it's going to be." "That's exactly how I want it," I replied, standing my ground. "You made your choices, Claire. Now you get to deal with the consequences." Without another word, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I stood there breathing in the silence, letting the tension drain out of my body. Part of me felt a twinge of guilt. Maybe I'd been too harsh. But then I remembered everything she'd put me through. And just like that, the guilt disappeared. For the first time in years, I felt like I had control over my life. I wasn't living in Claire's shadow anymore. I wasn't the second choice. I wasn't the scapegoat. I was finally free from all of it. I really thought after Claire stormed out of my apartment, that would be the end of it. I figured she'd finally get the message. I was done with her and with all the family drama. But of course, I underestimated how stubborn she could be. Not even a week later, the next wave hit. This time, it wasn't Claire knocking on my door. It was both of my parents. It was a Saturday again. Funny how this kind of thing always happens on my days off. I was just sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone when I heard the knock. It wasn't soft. It was one of those heavy, insistent knocks that tell you whoever's on the other side isn't going away anytime soon. I got up, already having a sinking feeling. And when I opened the door, there they were. My mom and dad standing side by side like some kind of united front. My dad looked uncomfortable, like he didn't even want to be there. But my mom, she had that look in her eye. The look that said, "I'm here to fix this and I don't." I sighed and leaned against the doorframe. "What do you want?" My mom gave me a strained smile, trying to come across as friendly. "Can we come in and talk?" she asked. "We need to sort some things out." I wanted to slam the door in their faces, but deep down, I knew if I didn't let them in now, they'd just keep showing up. With another sigh, I stepped aside and let them in. They walked in, both of them glancing around like they were expecting something more lavish than a regular apartment. My dad stayed quiet. My mom made a beeline for the couch, sat down, and patted the cushion next to her like I was some kid who needed coaxing. "I'll stand," I said flatly, arms crossed. "All right," she said with a tight smile. "Look, we know things have been difficult between us." "Difficult?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "That's what you're calling it." My dad finally spoke, his voice low and gruff. "We didn't come here to argue." "Then why did you come?" I asked, not hiding my frustration. "Because Claire tried. You tried. And I already made myself clear. I'm not helping. My mom's smile wavered a little. She wasn't used to me pushing back like this. That's not why we're here, she said, leaning forward slightly. We're here because we want to apologize. I almost laughed. Apologize for what exactly? I asked. For kicking me out, believing Claire's lies? Or for not even checking in on me for 2 years? My mom's face tightened. My dad shifted in his seat like he wished he were anywhere else. It was clear, they hadn't come prepared for me to throw the truth back at them. We know we made mistakes, my mom said, her voice softer now. But we're family, and family has to stick together. I could feel my patience slipping. This was always their playbook. When things went south, they'd pull the family card, like that was supposed to erase everything. You're only here because you need something from me, I said. If the business wasn't falling apart, I wouldn't be hearing from either of you. So let's not pretend this is about family. There was a beat of silence. Then my dad said something I never expected to hear. You're right. I blinked. What? You're right, he repeated, sighing. We screwed up. We believed Claire. We pushed you out. We didn't even think twice. And now things are falling apart and we're desperate. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't expected honesty. My mom looked like she wanted to explode. Clearly, this wasn't part of her plan. I appreciate the honesty, I said after a pause. But it doesn't change anything. That's when my mom cut in, sharp and angry. It doesn't change the fact that we need you, she snapped. And you owe us after everything we've done for you. There it was. The entitlement. As if being my parents meant they could treat me however they wanted and I'd still owe them for it. I don't owe you anything, I said, my voice cold. Not after how you treated me. You chose Claire. You threw me out. You didn't even check to see if I was okay. And now you want me to save you? That's not how this works. My dad stayed quiet, staring at the floor. He looked ashamed. My mom wasn't done. We're your parents, she said, her voice rising again. We raised you. We took care of you. And now you're just going to abandon us. I shook my head, almost felt sorry for her. You didn't take care of me. Aunt Denise did. You chose Claire, and now you're stuck with her. That's on you. My mom's face went red like she was about to explode, but my dad placed a hand on her arm, gently stopping her. He stood up and met my eyes for the first time since they arrived. We understand, he said. We're not going to push you anymore. We needed to try. For a second I almost felt bad, but then I remembered every lonely night, every betrayal, every silent phone, and the sympathy vanished. I hope you figure it out, I said, opening the door. But I'm not going to be part of it. My dad nodded like he'd expected it. My mom gave me one last look, half angry, half pleading. But when she saw I wasn't budging, she stood and followed him out. As the door shut behind them, I stood in the quiet. I had done it. I had finally stood up to them. And for the first time it felt like I was really free.